The medic told you not to go down because you left that part out. He told you not to go and you kept going. Okay.
And so I just start putting one foot in front of the other. I just worked so hard. What will my husband think? What would these other athletes think? How can I not do this? Staying down was not an option. When we study successful people in life, that is really a common ingredient.
Yes.
It's not that we don't fall, Sarah.
Right.
It's not that we don't stumble. It's not that we don't have setbacks and failures. We do. But the trick of it is we don't stay down long.
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 102 of the Game On Girlfriend podcast. I'm overjoyed a little bit today because we have someone who has transformed her own life coming on today to talk to you about the small changes one needs to make in order to have the life that you want. Today's guest is Ellen Loranger. And you guys, she's a Jersey girl. This is her book. It's called Win Today. Can you see? Yay, Win Today. It's a Jersey girl's guide. I know, Jersey girls. Who knew? Who knew that was a thing? Oh, wait, I did. All right. Anyway, so Ellen got to come and hang out with us today. You guys, there's a couple things I really want you to pay attention to in this interview. This woman has so much positive energy and so much focus and so much intention that it would be hard to kind of imagine that she was ever not like this. But you guys, she talks about in her book right here, Win Today again, that she talks about how she was not always like this. And I got to tell you, I don't know if you can see all my Post-it notes here. Like when I read this book for this interview to prepare, I actually paused when she said she wasn't always like this because I've known Ellen for a little bit now. And I really enjoyed getting to know her and getting to know her team and really see how she functions. And she is an extraordinary transformational coach. She's a motivational speaker. She's a best-selling author. She knows what she's doing and she's got this huge heart. So for me to read this book where she says, I wasn't always like this, I was like, we've got to dive into what happened here. So if you're watching this and you're somebody who's thinking, who are all these positive people and where did they come from? And, sometimes I know you'd like to slap us around a little bit, but we're people too. Anyway, if you're looking like, how do they do that? How do they stay that positive? What happens on a daily basis that makes their life look that happy? And even when it's not perfect, which it never is, it's still exciting. And it's still motivating and it's still inspiring. How in the world does that happen? She talks to us about that explicitly inside this episode because, well, I made her and I asked her permission before we hit record, but I was like, I really want to dive in with you on some of these tougher topics. So without further ado, let's dive in. I think I swore, so make sure you put in your earphones if littles are around. Episode number 102 of the Game On Girl podcast with Ellen Loranger. Enjoy. Ellen, welcome to the Game On Girlfriend podcast. I'm really excited you're here today.
I'm super excited, Sarah. I'm such a fan of yours. I've been following you for so long. And I remember when we first saw each other right before the pandemic, I don't know, it was one of those things I knew we were destined to be together somehow, some way. And now here we are.
We are. I know. I remember you saying that. I believe it was March 7th. 2020. And it's frightening that I know that, but I think everything around that time was like, oh my God, because that was the last time we could really be together before we could do anything, right? It was amazing. But listen, Miss in the day, I mean, you have, I look at your life, I look at your path, and I'm a little tiny bit blown away. Can I just be honest? I'm a little bit blown away by this. So you told everybody in your book, you guys, here's her book.
Yes.
More in a minute.
Love
it. You said in your book,
and
my spidey senses tingled, but you said in your book that you were not always a positive person.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I put the book down for a minute and I was like, is she telling me that?
Yeah, she's a liar.
Tell me, is that true?
Yeah.
Is that really true?
No, it's so true. And I think really what it was, I had so much jealousy, Sarah. I had so much jealousy. I was in a place in my life that I wasn't where I wanted to be. And it was really jealousy of, oh, look at the house this woman's living in. Look at the marriage this woman has. Look at the perfect kids this person has. Look at the job. Look at the success. And that really where it stemmed from. It stemmed from a certain amount of jealousy for what I didn't have. And I did not have gratitude in my life at that point. And that was a big part of the shift. I didn't have gratitude. When we want more things to be grateful for, the remedy for that is being grateful for where you are and what you have. And I didn't have the gratitude practice that I do now. And so I spent my days being jealous of what I didn't have. I was in that victim mentality. I wasn't at my goal weight. I didn't like my boss. My house was small. I didn't have the finances. I had no money in my bank account. I was, going through a difficult time in my marriage, all these things. And it just clouded me every day. And it just resulted in a negative mindset.
It's so hard to imagine you being like that. I'm just like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're so you got to break this down for me. What the heck happened? Like, how did you go? Because it is hard when you're in that cycle of negativity and jealousy and like victimhood, which a lot of people love to hang out there.
Yeah.
That can get addictive. Like, how did you pull yourself out of that? What happened?
I guess this was it was 2011, 2012, around there. I was going through a divorce. I was renting a house that I could barely pay for. I'm talking about like bouncing checks, could barely pay for, my 4 children. And I had nothing. Like, it was bottom of the barrel. How am I going to put food on the table? Like that type of scenario. And I watched Rhonda Byrne's The Secret. I don't know if you probably know it, right?
Yes. Huge fan.
It changed my life. And something in that made me start my gratitude practice. And so I said, well, I have nothing else to lose except being grateful for what I had. So every morning I would force myself, Sarah, literally force myself to drag my butt out of bed. And I wasn't a morning person at that point too, which is hysterical because now I'm up at 4:30 a.m. And I would drag my butt to just write 3 things, just 3 that I was grateful for about my life. And let me tell you how hard that was. And I get emotional about this because now I could fill pages every morning. And I woke up every day. And then I did it the next day and the next day. And I'm telling you, Sarah, it single-handedly turned things around for me. When you become grateful for for just simple things in your life, coffee being brewed for me in the morning, the fact that I'm up early writing in my gratitude journal, the fact that I have a job to go to, the fact that I have a roof over my head, the fact that my 4 children are sleeping soundly in their beds, the good night's sleep, whatever it was so simple, but it was transformative. And that was really the catalyst for this positive mindset. And what started to happen as a result of that, those 3 things, then more things started to happen in my life that I was actually grateful for. And it created this momentum for me. And positivity is not something that just happens to you. You have to choose it every single day upon waking. Every single day, like you're picking out your outfit or what you're having for breakfast. It is a choice. And that's where people go wrong, I think. People realize, well, that's just a positive person. Sarah and Mary Ellen, they're so positive. They're so bubbly. No. Every day upon waking, we make a choice. Okay.
Yeah.
Things didn't go our way yesterday, or this is I'm not looking forward to this meeting today, or whatever it is. We have to choose to be positive. It's a choice. So once you start making that choice, it just becomes habit. Just like anything else. The gratitude became habit. Making that choice every morning became habit.
I love that.
And that's it.
So I just have got to paint that picture for a second. So you've just decided to get divorced, which I want to talk about as well, because I think there's kind of a massive shift for women right now, the amount of divorces I'm seeing happen. So I do want to talk about that. But just to paint this picture, for those of you watching and or listening, you are in a home that you are renting that you can barely pay for with 4 children. You've lived most of your life with a negative mindset and woe is me and jealous of everyone else. And now you're feeling like, oh, dear heavens, I have like 2 pennies to like barely, rub together.
Yeah.
And you decide in the midst of that to start a gratitude list.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think my job here is done. Like that. What? Like that is amazing. I mean,
yeah. And the funny thing is now, if you open any cabinet in my home, journals will just come. You're going to be knocked out by the journals because I've saved every single one of them. And on a Saturday or Sunday in a cold, rainy, snowy day, I'll go back through them. Talk about you want to lift yourself up. And when you have nothing else, when you are really knocked down, gratitude it was the only thing that I could control. It was the only thing at that time that I could control. I could control my attitude and I could control the things I was grateful for. And it became a routine that I looked forward to every morning because it made me happy. It made me happy. It made me choose it. And also looking forward to something is probably the greatest gift we could give anybody. When people are robbed of the ability to look forward to something, right? I always need to look forward to something. And that's what it was for me. It was this hope. I became hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
I became, open to the possibilities of what could be. And really, that's really what turned it around, which then led to starting a vision board, of cutting out things in magazine. And I would Google certain houses I wanted to be at or certain jobs I wanted to do. Writing a book was always on my vision board. Things that, oh my gosh, Sarah, like I couldn't imagine even obtaining them at the time. They were so far-fetched and so far out there, but it was just dreaming. My ability to dream and have hope was the only thing that I had.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And you're pointing to, I think, something that it makes me mad that it's sort of become like a platitude and like this thing people say, but I think it's so important, which is that we can't always control what happens to us. We can always control how we respond.
Yeah.
And I think in those moments for you to sit down and look at the positive instead of wallow in what could be perceived as negative.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing, right? And Dr. Peggy DeLong says this all the time, the gratitude psychologist. She's always like, listen, it's free and it's always accessible.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, you can't get more true than that, right? Like you can really sit down and do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always used to hate people that said, look at the positive in every situation. It's not that simple.
Right.
But for me, the practice of gratitude became habit. Just like anything else. Okay. So you want to, work on improving drinking your water. You have to wake up every day and drink as many ounces as you can. And then the next day you do it again. And it's the stacking of these habits. And that's what I did. I stacked that habit every single morning. And so I started to become a positive person. And so I said to myself, okay, I might not be a positive person today, but what does a positive person do? A positive person chooses to be positive upon waking. A positive person would write down things that they're grateful for. A positive person would have a daily morning mantra that they say to themselves to go into the day. That is what a positive person would do. So just like if we want to be a runner, we practice running. We emulate what a runner does, right? If we're a smoker and we want to be a non-smoker, what does a non-smoker do? I took on the characteristics and the qualities and the habits of somebody who was a positive person. And then I became one.
Amazing. It's so beautiful, right? It's that whole thing. I always joke around about Mount Everest, right? It's really simple. You put one foot in front of the other. That doesn't mean it's easy, but I think what you just described is what we say to anybody, right? It's like, you want to be a pianist? Great. What would a pianist be doing today?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the goal is, but to talk about it that way and look at the day-to-day habits and remember that it's not like there's some angel out there doling out positivity and they just missed you.
And this is something I still struggle with. Look, there are days I wake up, I'm like, I don't feel like freaking doing this. I don't want to be grateful. It is still a choice I have to make daily. So it doesn't, even today, it's something I choose, something I fight for, something that is a priority to me, but it doesn't necessarily always come easy. And that's the thing that I want people to understand is it's still a choice I have to make. And I get knocked down too. And I don't want to be happy or positive, but I know that my day will go better if I do start my day choosing the best I can to start it with gratitude.
I love it.
That's it.
So I do want to talk about this. I want to bring us, we're going to come back to the positive. I want to talk about all your Ironman races. You amazing woman, like, oh my God, jaw on the floor, impressed. But
Thanks.
Okay. So before we hit that positivity, I do want to understand for you, Mary Ellen, deciding to get divorced, right? With 4 children, knowing financially it might get a little tough, like all the things in front of you. You guys don't know this, but before we hit record, Mary Ellen and I were talking, and I know so many people right now at this moment who are going through divorces. And it seems to be the women who are making these decisions. And I just find this just like, wow, what's happening here? And I wanted to understand for you, you mentioned in the book that people were really kind of mean to you about this. Like, how, you're so selfish. Like, how could you do this? Do you even know what you're doing? Those kinds of comments that I think women today are still hearing.
Yeah.
How did you find the courage? One, how did you know that was the right decision for you? And then 2, how did you find the courage to do that?
It's such a great point. And that time is such a almost a blur to me. But here's the thing. I didn't know it was the right decision.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know at the time. And I do know today it was, but I did not know at the time. It was something that I was feeling like I was called to do. And I know that's a sort of a disconnect there, but sometimes we are called to do things in our life. And ultimately, we don't know if it's going to work out. Ultimately, we don't know if it's the right decision. It just was something I was being called to do. And, I think one of the reasons I was met with raised eyebrows was that my ex-husband is an amazing man, and he's a great father, and he's a great guy. And we are good friends today, raising four amazing people. And so many times people get divorced because one person is, not a nice person, or you can see the disconnect, or you can see, how they just, it wasn't that case. But truly, and I know this is kind of a cliche, we truly did grow apart. And I think for me, I had this constant fire in my belly, no grass grew under my feet. I was feeling, and I was, turning 40, and I was feeling called to do more. And he wanted to just kind of stay where he was. That was the huge divide that just kept getting larger and larger and larger. Sometimes in my life, I make decisions that, are abrupt, and, I don't know that I thought it all the way through. Here's the thing, and I'm very truthful about this. I don't know that I thought it all the way through, Sarah. I don't know that I said to myself, how will I do this? How will I afford it? Can I afford a rental? What will my future look like? What will happen to my children? It was a selfish act. And I'm very truthful about that. And I think it's important. It was selfish, because I think many women in that situation would have said, for my children, I have to stay. And I truly admire the women that can say that, because I didn't. And something that actually haunts me deeply to this day. And I have a lot of regret. The regret is, are my children impacted? Will they still be impacted? What is the residual effects on them? Will they be able to have good, solid relationships and find love? Did I damage them in that way? It is something I carry around with me daily, especially when I see my daughters struggling in certain situations. I wonder, is that me? Did I do that to them? And that's a huge, heavy burden. I do ultimately believe I am where I am supposed to be. I am who I'm supposed to be with. And the person that I'm with now has allowed me to do all the things that I've done, all the things in this book, that I would not have been able to find my voice had I been back there, right? I know that now. I didn't know it then, but I answered a call, and I answered a voice that called me to want more for my life.
Wow. I think that's really important. And I just want to say, Mary Ellen, I think every single one of us that, if I call it growing people, every single one of us who's grown a person, right? Like, we all have that concern. Did that one time that I was late to pick them up, did that damage them forever? Like, and I'm not trying to be flippant about it, but we can pick things to worry about when it comes to our children, right? Because we care so much, and we're so aware of the power of mom.
Yes.
And the power of our behavior, right?
Yes.
Like, we're really, really aware of that. So I say that because I hope to give you some sense of comfort there, that like,
yeah,
we all feel that all the time, no matter what decisions we've made. Yeah, that's a concern.
Yeah. And I've had tremendous guilt about that for years. I'm finally at a point where I do have peace about it. I have given myself grace and a little bit of peace. And I'm able to, I used to dodge questions about it with my children. And now I don't do that anymore, because that's the healing that I've been able to do, and grace that I've given myself. But I think at the time, I didn't ultimately know it was the right decision. I just put one foot in front of the other, And eventually things kept working out where it seemed that was the path I was supposed to be taking.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen you with your current husband, and just, wow, right? Like, the energy is just matched there. It seems like such an extraordinary match. And I would imagine that your children, both male and female, seeing you like that has to make them very, very happy.
Yes. And I that is my hope. Do I know that for sure? Not at this moment in time. One day I may. I don't believe that there's one love for one person. I do feel that we have different people in our lives at different points who meet and match who we are at that time. And so for me, at 23 years old, my ex-husband was my person.
Right.
And there were so many blessings and gifts that came of that relationship. And so that's how I choose to look back on that. I'm very sorry it ended, but I do feel that that was right at that point in my life. This is right at this point in my life. And many out there might say, well, that's really selfish. But that's truly how I feel. It was the right person for me at that point. And many, many good things came of that love and that relationship. And there's still a deep love there and admiration and respect for one another, because we do have 4 great kids and we are able to navigate, not in the beginning, I will say that, but now are able to navigate the together.
Whole family unit that is. Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah.
To anybody who would judge, you guys, anyone listening or watching, if you did find yourself judging, just take a second back, right? Because we all have nudges or ideas or moments. Marilyn, I love the way that you're describing this, that this was something that kind of pulled at you, right? It was this thing that sort of led you to move.
Yeah.
And we talk about that all the time. I talk about that, people who need to leave their corporate job, people who do need to leave relationships or get into relationships, right? Or they're worried about
Totally.
or whatever. You've got to listen internally, and it is not for anyone else to judge that. And
Totally.
I found, this happens a lot when people start their own businesses, right? They get that judgment back. Well, who the hell do you think you are? Do you even know what you're doing? The same things you described in the book that people said about that change in your life, they say about perceived positive changes in other people's lives too, right? Because we hold up a mirror to other people when we make really big decisions like that. And they get mad.
And I used to be one that judged people like me, and it was only a reflection of what was going on with me. And as we know, Sarah, it has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with you. It had to do with my unhappiness and my insecurities and my restfulness that made me judge other people.
Absolutely.
And that's really, when you're judged, that's what's coming. And I try now not to judge, although that's not always easy to do, but not to judge, and also give people grace who do judge, because they're obviously wrestling with something that's deep-seated in their own selves, that the only way they can bring that to the surface is judging others or judging me or whatever.
That's right. That's right. Well, because it keeps it at bay, right? And you talk about that a little bit in the book as well, that, you kind of shed people from time to time when you make decisions like this. And I always joke with my clients when they sign up with me, I'm like, just so you know, you're probably going to shed some friends. I'm sorry about that. But once you start to move forward in your life, the people who don't want to move forward sort of fall away, or they get excited and join you.
1,000%. And that is probably one of the hardest things for women, because we never want to let friends go. We never want to let our people go. But there has been so many tribes that I've been in and out of. And again, sort of like what I was referring to before, they served a certain purpose in my life. And loving them and acknowledging that they were my friends back then, they weren't meant to come on my continued journey. Right. So I think just like when you, take on a new role in a job, you're going to level up to the responsibilities that job requires of you. It's the same thing in our life. When we want to level up in our life, we're going to get around people that requires us to learn certain things and grow in a certain way. And those people that were back there aren't all meant to come with you. And it's okay. It's okay. And so that used to really rub me the wrong way. Well, why aren't they coming with me? I still want to be friends with them. And I've tried to kind of reach back. They're just not meant to come with you on this journey. And I think women acknowledging that and being okay with letting those people go, but loving them still is what we really need to do, and acknowledge the friendship and the love that was there at the time, and being okay to get around the new people that's going to get you where you want to go in this new phase of your life.
I mean, that reminds me of something that I think is so important. I don't think we always recognize is that, our day-to-day conversations make up our lives. So if you want to change things, it's like what you did internally too, right? Like, I want to change this. The conversation you started having was gratitude. So to have people around you who are like, whatever your goal is, right? Ambition, health, more money, better friendships, deeper love, whatever it is, you need to be around other people who are in that conversation, people who are excited by that and want to support you in that. I think it's so important.
And getting in the room, what is that? You're only so valuable or so good as the people that used to, the last, 5 people that you surround yourself with. Right. And it's really, really true. And that crab in the bucket analogy too, Sarah, when you throw crabs in a bucket, one tries to call out, the other crab tries to pull it back down. A lot of times when we want to change or level up or pivot and shift or grow in some way, not everybody's going to clap for you. Not everyone's going to support you on your journey. Not everyone's going to lift you up to get over that bucket. They're going to want to pull you back down. But again, that has everything to do with them and nothing to do with you. It is to do with their insecurities, because you're wanting to change and grow and level up calls into question. It turns the mirror on them. well, what about me? If Mary Ellen leaves and does this and becomes
Yep.
a CEO of her business, and what about me? What does that mean for my life? Should I be doing that?
Yeah.
And that calls into question their lack of ability to change or their insecurities. So that's really what that's about.
Love that. Yes. And I think it's so important for us to be aware of. Once we're not surprised when it happens, or like you said, we don't feel bad when it happens. It's like, oh, I see what's happening here. It's like,
yeah,
got it. Which kind of leads me, you said something so interesting in your book. So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, Miss Mary Ellen here has participated in, because you run, bike, and swim. Sorry, excuse me. Has participated in 5 Ironman competitions. Is this correct, Missy?
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel funny because so many have done so many more. My husband's done 7. We know people that have done like 13, 15, so 5 is
I'm like 1, I still would be like, I'm not worthy. Like, that is extraordinary. That is so much work. That is so much wear and tear, and is so much mental stamina. And you said something. So I have 2 questions about your ability to do this. So, 1, you mentioned in the book, somebody asked you, like, why the hell do you do this? It's like, which is kind of the question I think we all have. Can you describe, before you answer why the hell you do this and your amazing response about what you find out about yourself, can you just let people know, for those who don't know, what an Ironman includes?
Yeah, sure. An Ironman is like the Super Bowl of the triathlon world. So a triathlon is a swim, a bike, and a run all together back to back on the same day. An Ironman is like the largest triathlon you can do. So it's a 2.4 mile swim. You get out of the water and you immediately hop on your bike. You do 112 miles on your bike. And then that's followed by a full marathon, which is 26.2 miles back to back to back. Now, for really, really good athletes like my husband, you can potentially do this in 11, 12, 13 hours. For me, I was always in the 13 to 15, hour time frame, but it is a complete test of will.
Yeah.
And sure, yes, it requires a physical stamina. No doubt in my mind. I grew up a swimmer. I was a competitive swimmer growing up. That was my background. And of course, when I was in my I guess it was late 30s, early 40s, somebody needed a swimmer for a relay, a triathlon relay. They said, Mary Ellen, you used to swim. I said, yeah, but 20 years ago, whatever. So I got back in the pool. I could barely swim 10 laps, but I'm a competitive person. So I said, I can do this. So I was the swimmer on their relay, and the rest is history, because then I said, well, I can do this whole thing. I didn't know how to ride a bike, because riding a triathlon bike is a little bit different. I learned that. I was not a natural runner. It's not something that a 5'2", with no torso kind of a gal really excels at. I had to really learn that as well. I just saw this as something, I can do this. If that woman can do it, I can do it too. So this led to in 2012, the only Ironman in the New York, New Jersey area came to town. And so Ironman is a national organization, and they pick different spots around the US to do their races. Normally they're in sort of, remote areas where there's not a lot of traffic and kind of open spaces. Well, they decided to do one in New York, New Jersey, and that was an opportunity for local folks to sign up. And so that was the catalyst to kind of get me into the sport. And I was hooked. And it was something that my now husband and I did together. We had a whole community of people. When I was living in that rental back then, we had a detached garage. And so we opened it up to triathletes on Saturday mornings. We used to cycle in our garage on our bike trainers. Sometimes we had 50 people in this garage, plus a couple dogs. It was an amazing time, right? Because I'm all about, as you know me, Sarah, I'm about creating community. And that was the beginning stages of us creating a sense of community. My husband and I formed a triathlon club locally. Again, we had nothing. We didn't have a pot to piss in, excuse my expression, but we could start a community. And that's what we did. So why do I do it? Well, it started out doing it, quite frankly, because everybody else was.
It sounds like it. Like you were surrounded. Talk about the conversation. Oh my gosh.
It's what everybody else, they're like, we're signing up for this race. I'm like, oh, darn it. Fine. I'll do it too. Right. Right. I never want to be left out. I'm a huge FOMO person. Right. I didn't want to miss out. Signed up, but then I thought I could do better at this. So when I crossed the finish line, I'm like, I can do better. And so then we signed up for the second one and the third one. And then I got a nod in 2014. A women's organization called Women for Tri was choosing some applicants to go to the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii. And my name was picked out of a hat. So I went And they chose me to go and represent their organization. I did that one. And then fast forward to 2019, there's an Ironman World Championship lottery. I said, let me throw my hat in the ring. Whose name gets picked? Like one out of, I mean, it was thousands and thousands of applicants. And
you play the Super Lotto from time to time, Mary Ellen? Because you might want to. Like, oh my gosh,
I know, it's crazy. But at that race, a volunteer said to me, this is one of the toughest courses on the planet. Why do you do this? And I remember saying, I paused. I said, because it's out there, having nothing to do with physical. You really come face to face with who you are. And I say that because it is a dark place that you go to in your mind.
Yes.
You have just swam 2 miles in a very choppy water. You then ride your bike through lava fields and winds and get knocked all over the place for 6 hours. Okay. Then you got to run for 4 to 5 hours. Okay. You literally sometimes can't even put one foot in front of the other. Your mind starts playing tricks on you. Like, I can't do this. Let me just pull over here. You have to go to a place in your mind of resiliency, the utter place of resiliency and grit. And that's where you get to know who you really are, what you're capable of doing, pushing through adversity. So when I'm faced with a tough client now or a tough coach on my team, I'm thinking, this is nothing. If I can do that, I went to that dark place, I can do this. And so truly, it's so parallel for our life. At that last race, I literally had to put one foot in front of the other. I had a damaged hip at the time. I could barely run. I put one foot in front of the other. And so that's the metaphor for life, Sarah, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
When we are up against it, all we can do is win the day, win one day at a time, put one foot in front of the other. And you have to believe that you can. The only thing I had during those races was a belief that I could. I relied on my training. I relied on all the work that I put in. I relied on myself. And then I knew I could do it and get across the finish line. And that's just such a great methodology for life in general. If you believe in yourself enough that you can get through anything, then anything is truly possible, which is the Ironman mantra. Anything is possible.
Amazing. Anything is possible. I didn't know that. I think that's really great because when you said that in the book, like you said to the person who asked you, why the hell do you do this to yourself? It was like, you find out who you are out there because there's no one else there. It's you, your ego, who's like, would you please sit down? Right. And your grit. And those are the things that are battling it out. And to have you articulate it that way, I thought was so cool. And then the other question I had for you, which I think you've sort of answered, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah.
You guys, she talks about in the book, there was one time she's riding her bike and somebody else bumps into her and they both fall head over heels on the bikes and she just pops right back on and keeps going. And other people are going past her going, lady, bleeding. And she's like,
that was right. That was something. Yeah.
So where does that come from, woman? Where is that grit in you? Like what fuels that fight in you to never give up on yourself?
That particular day, and I have a scar on my left shoulder to prove it. So that was a race we did up in Lake Placid. Lake Placid is a great spot for an Ironman. It's local to us, and so we love that local race. And it was that particular Ironman. It was thunder and lightning and a downpour. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm a mother. What the hell am I doing? If this race isn't hard enough, it's like a sheer downpour. So we're riding our bike and I'm just braking hard. I'm nervous as all get out. And there was a part of the race about 40 miles in, and there was no dividing line. So bikers were coming this way, I'm going this way. And because it was so slick and pouring rain, this biker from the other lane crashes into me. We both go sliding. We go sliding into the guardrail and I fall on my left side. He's totally disheveled. And we're both, bikes down, mangled, we're mangled, medics come. This guy's taken out of the race. And this medic says to me, yeah, you're done here. Your day is done. Now I had just trained for 30 weeks. I had woken up at 4:30 a.m. I did this all before my kids getting up for school, me going to my job. Like I had put so much into it. And I said, is my bike okay? Is my bike okay? And my brakes worked. I said, I'm going. Now I think I was in shock.
Wow. So wait, the medic told you not to go down because you left that part out. He told you not to go and you kept going.
The medic. So I said, is my bike okay? Is my bike okay? So the guy, they're looking at me. The other guy's like all bloody. He's disoriented. I'm sitting there. I pick up my bike. I look at it. It seems okay. I think I was really in like a state of shock. I really think I was disorientated. And I just start riding away. And funny, this is a comical scene. The medic is basically chasing me, like on foot, to say, lady, what are you doing? Like, I'm complete road rash. My whole face is bleeding. My whole arm is bleeding. And so I just start putting one foot in front of the other, one pedal in front of the other. And it was a sense of, I can't not get over that line. I just worked so hard. What will my husband think? What would these other athletes think? How can I not do this? There was no option for me, Sarah. Staying down was not an option. And I think, when we study successful people in life, and I'm not saying I'm successful, but I think this is an element to success that I have had. That is really a common ingredient.
Yes.
It's not that we don't fall, Sarah.
Right.
It's not that we don't stumble. It's not that we don't have setbacks and failures. We do. But the trick of it is we don't stay down long. We learn from them. We say, what can we learn from this? How can we grow from this? And then we move forward. And that day, I just did that. I moved forward. And I think that's really served me as a leader and in my business.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing. Right. That's the whole thing. It's like the people who quit and the people who don't. And even it doesn't mean it's not hard. And I really love that you shared that. Oh my gosh. Well, Mary Ellen, I think we could talk for another 3.5, maybe 4 hours. So,
yeah, so true. So true. So true.
That incredibly positive note of like, you guys just keep getting up, right? Because it's just, I mean, and Mary Ellen, you're an extraordinary example of this. If you just have to keep getting up and you got to keep going, that there's always a next, there's always more. And that doesn't mean we don't look back and acknowledge what's happened and the positive that's there, the negative that's there.
Yeah.
There's always a next. And I love that you really live what you talk.
And here's the thing also to leave with, we set these audacious and huge goals for ourselves, and that's very important. But remember that to stack your small victories and your small wins every day. And that's what's going to carry this momentum forward. So, if you have a big goal, set that big goal, but then let's start stacking your daily wins and victories. And that's putting one foot in front of the other. It's learning from our mistakes and getting back up. It's creating this positive mindset. That's a choice every day, setting those wheels in motion, right? And that's really what we have to do. We have to just keep going and put one foot in front of the other, even when it gets hard, because every time that you do that and you get back up and you put one foot in front of the other, the next time it gets hard, you're going to remember, well, I kept going then, I can keep going now. And that's, and you build up this belief in yourself. So
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Mary Ellen, thank you so much for being on today. And you guys, for those of you listening and or watching, we do have a special gift. So Mary Ellen has this amazing book. I will put a link to the book, both the Audible version and the printed version in the show notes, so everybody can grab that. But for the first 5 people who share this episode and tag us, our Instagram links are in the show notes, so you don't have any excuse. But the first 5 people who share this podcast episode and tag us get a free copy of Mary Ellen's book. So that's all I'm saying right there. It's called The Share Button, my beauties.
That's it.
Well, let's get this word out there. Let's get more people standing up when they fall down. Let's get more people doing gratitude lists when it feels like there's no hope. Let's go. Mary Ellen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate your time. And it was an honor being here today. Thank you, girl. Appreciate you.
It.